Smile, be chat, join for networking.
Hi, I'm Richard McCann, Sunday Times #1 best-selling author and presentation skills coach and motivational speaker. How is it possible for someone to leave school with no qualifications, particularly no English qualification, and to go on to write a best-selling book that would knock Robbie Williams off the #1 spot? How is that possible? Get translated around the world and sell 500,000 copies. How is that possible? How is it possible for someone to be brought up on the at-risk register, be dragged up on the at-risk register, with low self-esteem, no confidence, to become one of the busiest motivational speakers in the UK? This is my 1,749th presentation that I've delivered in the last 10 years. How is that possible? How is it possible to live most of my life with a fear of speaking, not just speaking like this, a fear of meeting people one-on-one? I couldn't do it 10 years ago. My face would go red, I would get nervous, I would leave the room. How is it possible? I'll tell you why it's possible. Because at some point throughout all those things I've described, I've said to myself, I can do this. I want to put this into some context. Why I had low self-esteem, why I had no confidence. That at-risk register that I was brought up on was nothing compared to what happened a week before my 6th birthday, when my mum, who was a big drinker, went out drinking, and little did we know, me and my 3 sisters, that we're never going to see her again. I remember my sister Sonia waking me up. She says, "Richard, wake up." 5:30 in the morning. Wake up. Mum's not come home. Let's go look for her. We wandered the streets looking for Mum. Made our way to the local bus stop. I remember sitting at this bus stop waiting for Mum on the first bus, and it came, but she wasn't on it. We gave up and we went home. To cut a long story short, the police arrived at the house and were asking questions. "When did you last see your Mum?" "Where's your dad?" He'd left actually when I was 4. That was good riddance actually. They took us away to the local children's home, and the only thing we were told by a police officer was that our Mum had been taken to heaven and that we weren't going to see her again. I was devastated. What we weren't told is that she was murdered. What we weren't told is that she was found on the field at the back of the house. We'd actually walked down a path on the field looking for her, but it was October. It was dark, we didn't see her. If I had seen my Mum on that field, stabbed 14 times, hit twice over the head with a hammer, by a man called Peter Sutcliffe, if I'd have discovered my Mum that morning, I don't think I would have been alive today. I don't think I would have been the person I am or I've become today. But you know what? I am the person I am today because I went through that as a young child. People often say to me, "Richard, how did you turn it around? How did you bounce back from that? How come you're so happy despite that?" Yeah, it's my attitude, my approach to life, the meaning that I apply to the things that go on around me. And it might surprise you to know that in this children's home where we spent a few months, I told myself as a 6-year-old boy, I became 6 in the children's home, I know why it's happened. I've got my why. I know why it's happened. Mum was being taken by God away from all this violence so that me and my sisters, we can have this better life than my dad. He's got a new girlfriend. She can be my mum. She's not my real mum. But the outside world, they don't know that. As far as they're concerned, it looks like we're in this proper family unit. When I was with my mum, single parent, different boyfriends, I was really embarrassed. I have no idea how that 6-year-old boy that I was able to think in that way, because I'd not listened to any motivational speakers. I'd not read any books on personal development, but what I believe now, as a 45-year-old man, is that ability when you're going through a challenge, that ability to find that ray of sunshine in that dark cloud is an ability we've all got. If you want to find something that you're grateful for, you can, can't you? Do you have any positive people in the room? Any positive people in the room? Yeah, they're all positive, aren't you? Yeah. Yours was the first up there. Where'd you get it from, your positivity? Where'd you get it from?
I don't know, I'm just like that.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
You don't get it from Aldi, you don't get it from Primark. You don't. They do nice thermals for £8 though. I don't mind. Yeah, it's a choice to be positive. It's a choice to put the meaning that I applied to Mum's death. And I told myself as a young kid, it was to give me a better life. And it helped me. That mindset helped me. Didn't quite turn out to be the better life I was hoping for. My dad was a very brutal man. They didn't describe him as a feckless ogre in the file that I've now got. They didn't call him that for no reason. He was a brutal man. He drowned the dog in the bath. He used to beat us with sticks like a cheerleader. He would beat you black and blue and stab me with a fork. Once pinned me down under the bath, thought I was going to drown me like he drowned the dog. You got the picture? But you know what? I love him. I love my dad. Because I can forgive as well. I'm so glad that I forgave him in 2007 because I've had 7 years with him. 7 years, which ended last year because he passed away. He was found on his sofa, dead like that. So I was grateful for the 7 years that I had with him. But back then I hated the guy. For good reason. And so you can probably understand why I had that low self-esteem and that no confidence. They're all better than me. I'm damaged goods. I'm scarred for life. Never going to achieve anything. And to top it off, to make matters even worse, I had ginger hair as well. Ginger massive. Just to break the tension in the room. Yeah, it was a horrible time. But something happened at the age of 13. And by the way, I was running away from home. I stepped the streets on a couple of occasions. I was shoplifting, all that stuff, broke into my primary school. But something happened at the age of 13. My English teacher came up to me. He said, Richard, why don't you enter the school public speaking competition? I thought, are you joking? Get on the stage with me, second-hand clothes and me. Ginger hair. But then I thought about it. Here's a great question when you're faced with a challenge. What's the worst? What's the worst that could happen? I've been through the worst when I lost my mum. You can't compare to that. I entered this speaking competition and I didn't do what everybody else did. You all know this in business. You've got to stand out from the competition. They all stood on the stage in front of the podium reading their notes like politicians, posters, flip charts, diagrams, acetates, OHP projectors. Do you remember those? I didn't. I walked on stage, I stood there like this. No notes, no posters, and I spoke from the heart, as I'm doing right now, about the one thing that I knew something about, pigeons. Do you remember Kes with the kestrel? My dad kept pigeons. It was my job to feed them. I knew all about them, but it was my best bit. After my 5-minute talk, and I got really confident. Excuse me for 1 minute. I walked to the edge of the stage and I leaned down behind the curtains on the floor as a box, and in this box was a pigeon. I brought a pigeon to school with me. You could say it was my coup. I was extending its wings on stage and they loved it. They loved it. Then I let the pigeon go out the double doors. Off it went. Got this massive round of applause. I told myself, I can. That was the first time that I said I can. And I did. Can you imagine how proud I felt? Me, with my background. Can you imagine how proud I felt the next day when Mr. Stanley, head of school, announced that Richard McCann with his talk on pigeons had won first place. I won it. I won it. And I grew as a person. But the thing about winning is the potential to win. It was always there. It was always there. I wonder what else I had the potential for that I had not yet uncovered. You know, Formula 1, didn't try that. Tap dancer, pianist. I never tried all those things for posh people, isn't it? Here's one thing I believe. I don't care how successful you are already. Yeah, we can all do a little bit more. We all know that, don't we? So I'm going to prove it. Bit of audience participation. We've had none yet this morning, so I'm going to include some of the audience. Just 2 of you. It's not a big audience here. Up to the front, you're going to sing, okay? To the rest of the group, what I want the audience to do is score each singer between 1 and 10. 1 is could do better, 10 is X Factor material, and here's how we score them out of 10. We ain't got time for paper. My arm is a clapometer. First person, let them sing 25 seconds. My arm will go like that, okay? That's 0, that's 5 out of 10. If you think there were 10 out of 10, you clap them up there. Are we ready? Any volunteers, first of all? Nobody! Oh, well, of course I ain't got time for that, we've only got 15 minutes. But that feeling that most of you just had, the thought of getting up here and singing in front, yeah, that's how I felt at age 13. In life, you've got to do the scary stuff because that's where you have the greatest capacity to grow. And I grew. Next few years at school were brilliant. Got to 16 though. Did what most of you probably didn't do. I walked out of school, thought I was clever, walked out of school, didn't take my exams, left home at 16. First job was ironing trousers, then I was washing plates. I was one of the best washers of dishes they had. No, seriously, I was. In fact, those plates were so clean by the time I finished with them, you could have ate your dinner off them. I hated it, so I did something about it. Most people stay in a job for 15 years that they can't stand. Do something about it, because you always can. I went down to London, and I joined the army. Told a little white lie. Mum died in a car accident. Couldn't tell them she was murdered. You tell them somebody your mum was murdered. It's like, all right, don't know what to say. You can't blame them for that. So rather than go through that uncomfortable conversation, oh, she died in a car accident. They accepted my little white lie and finished my basic training, posted out to Germany, got this German girlfriend. The funny thing about Petra was she was English, but when she spoke, she was German, but when she spoke English, she had this Glaswegian accent. It was like so funny. It was so funny. And this is 1989. Something happened in Germany in 1989. It was monumental. Does anybody know what it was? What was it? The Berlin Wall. No, Petra dumped me. No, you're right. The Berlin Wall came down. And that wall coming down is what life's all about. Stuff happens. Stuff happens when you least expect it. Yeah, it's great to have a 3-5 year business plan. Yeah. So have one of those. I've never had one. Stuff happens when you least expect it. Bang, you get that phone call. You lose that big client, that big piece of work, that 6-month contract, whatever. Stuff happens. You can't turn back the clock. I couldn't go back in time. I couldn't bring my mum back. In the army. A month after the wall came down, so well done. A magazine was published. Marshall Cavendish decided to release a series of magazines about murderers. The murder case book. My mum's killer was on the cover of the first edition, Peter Sutcliffe. My secret was out. People were coming up to, hey Richard, this is you, this is your mum. Yeah, all right, okay. And I felt like I did as a young person, not as good as other people. Let's just say I had a breakdown. I wasn't very happy. I was probably number 1, as you pointed out earlier. And I had a breakdown. I was on the psychiatric ward of Hanover Military Hospital. And just when I thought I was going to get some professional help, they kicked me out. They said I was unfit for army service. In fact, they said I had a personality disorder. Look at me. Sometimes we get given labels, don't we? Yeah, it's just a label. came back to Leeds, and like I said, can't turn back the clock, but I can decide what I'm going to do next. I'm kicked out of the army. All right, that didn't work out. Get another job then. I could have gone out there robbing people, breaking into houses, and if I hadn't, they would have said, yeah, no, look at his childhood. No. I was stacking boxes in a warehouse, and I stood out. You got to stand out. Stuart Hardy, the warehouse manager, after about 6 months, he said, we're going to install a computer system. I want you to run it. Me? He said, yeah, your management material. What? Pay rise. I tell you what, I think I physically grew. Went out and got myself a shirt and tie and briefcase from Oxfam with battered corners. Thought I was posh. All that was in the briefcase was my packed lunch on a morning. But do you know how I grew? And I ended up getting my own, I got pay rise after pay rise. I ended up getting my own place. I bought my own house at the age of 24. I used to think that people that own their own homes, they're better than me. And I realised, no, they're not. No. I'll buy my own house. It was my first real tangible goal. But you can't just have a goal and hope for the best. I want to buy my own house. No, you've got to do something about it. Sometimes you've got to make some sacrifices. My sacrifices were I had to save up for a deposit. At age 24, I was so thrilled. I was even so proud of my mum, or thinking my mum would be proud of me looking down from up above. Oh, look, he's buying his own house, showing off. Unfortunately, it didn't last, because I was hanging around with the wrong crowd. Isn't that what 4 networking is all about, hanging around with the right crowd? I run around with the wrong crowd, taking drugs every weekend, and to be accepted by these wrong crowd, I went along with them. Speed, ecstasy, cocaine, lost my job, 2 of my friends are dead, and, well, to cut a long story short, I started dealing drugs to my friends, and I got arrested. I got sent to prison, the very same prison that my mum's killer was sent to when he was first arrested. He's not there now, he's in Broadmoor Hospital, but you know what? It was one of the best things that could have happened to me. Although at the time it was hell, locked up in a cell all day, not being able to do what you want to do and go where you want to go. Anybody here serve time in prison? Really, just went at the back there. What was that for? Do you know what, you can joke, but there's more people that have not been to prison, they might as well be in prison. Because they're walking around with these imaginary bars, they're not even there. Oh no, I can't do this and I can't, oh not me. Oh, what a load of rubbish. Henry Ford said this, I don't quote Richard McCann. He said there isn't a person on the planet that can't do more than they think they can. I love that. But at the time it was hell. My girlfriend dumped me and I got through my sentence and I stayed out of trouble like I said I was going to, and I came out of there and I vowed never to put myself at risk of returning to a place like that. I'm making it sound really easy. Actually, I was going to take my life when I came out of prison. I formed a suicide pact with my sister Sonia. I thought, I've had enough. Couldn't get a job, couldn't save my house. But she took the tablet the day we discussed it and it brought me to my senses. We did save her, by the way. I saved my house at the very last minute. My bags were packed. I'm out. I've lost the house. No, I saved my house at the very last minute. And I got a job in a warehouse, the ladies' wear company, but by standing out, you've got to stand out. You've got to go the extra mile or the extra 1.61 kilometres from next year. Do you know that? You can't say one extra mile from next year. I went the extra mile, I got promoted in this company grew, I had my own little department, I was importing fabric from the Far East. I changed my circle of friends, I took up salsa dancing. Oh, anybody here do salsa? Anybody do salsa? Do you? I'm going to say any single men in the house take up salsa, because you can, honestly, I met so many women through salsa. And I think one of the final things I did, and that's part of what 4 networking is about, is I asked for some help from someone that could help me. That was a counsellor. What I haven't told you in this very short presentation is I've had more relationships I can even tell you many I've had. I've had hundreds, and I've failed most of them with my insecurities and unfaithful, all this stuff. The final piece of help that I needed was help with my insecurities. Sandra Goad, a counsellor, 2.5 years, going through all those things that I had issues with. The main thing was the failed relationships, but there's other stuff as well. She said, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? I said, I want to be married. I want some children. Some ginger children. We parted in company in 2002. No more than 3 months later, my sister Sonia stabbed her boyfriend in self-defence. And I didn't do what some people said I should do, or we should do. Hey, let's go batter him! No, I'll go one better. No, I'll write a book. And let me tell you, I've got no qualifications. I can't spell for toffee, check my Facebook page. But I got some help with it. I got some great advice. You want a literary agent? A literary agent sounds posh. And I wrote off to agent after agent after agent. They weren't interested. I was writing letters off to publishers. They weren't interested. Very amateur-looking approach. But I kept going. I sent out 42 proposals. And I'm so glad that I stuck in there, because my book came out. It was on the 16th of July, 2004. 437,000 copies. It's mad. Do you know why? Because I started that book when I wasn't ready. And then I got this invitation to come and speak at a conference. I was on TV, Philip Schofield publicising the book, and someone said, "Can you come and speak at our conference?" But I've got no self-confidence. I can't speak in front of people. I can't even meet people. So I said, "Go on then." And I did it. And I was appalling. I read out my book. Right, there must have been, what are we listening to? No eye contact or anything. But I kept going. I got some help with it. I got some coaching of my own. And you know, this is my, as I said at the very beginning, my 1,745th presentation. I've spoken Malaysia, South Africa, Switzerland, Germany, Iran. It's mad. and teaching presentation skills to leaders. Well, you what? It shouldn't be possible, but it is possible because I said I can. I must just give my story a happy ending because we've had the happiness speaker earlier. I became this motivational speaker. I've written 4 books now, and I'm on my 5th book. It's out in about 3 months' time. It's called, 50 Shades of Ginger. But the happy ending I want to give my story is by taking up salsa. I met Helen, my wife to be, in a salsa club in Sheffield in 2004. We got engaged, we got married on the 1st of July 2006 on the doorsteps of the house that my mum lived in as a young girl up on the Isle of Skye. And it was the closest we could get to having my mum at our wedding. And we went on to have our daughter Skye, our other daughter Isla, and my son Ellis, 3 gingers. They are all ginger. And I wish I could have them here because they're walking to give you all a ginger massive salute. Guys, my final thoughts are these. Listen, I've compacted as much as I can into 15 minutes. If I can overcome the things that I've been through, my mum was murdered by a serial killer. I was beaten with sticks, the at-risk register, no qualifications, drugs, prison, my fault, what an idiot. Lost my sister to suicide eventually in 2007. That's how I was able to forgive my father. My wife just surviving cancer just now. If despite all that stuff, I can go on to, step outside my comfort zone, do those things that others aren't prepared to do, and quite frankly, achieve far more than I ever dreamt possible. If I can, you know what's coming, don't you? Well, then you can too. I'm Richard McCann. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Smile, be a